And we are back with a Fox News alert. The president and the rest of the world continuing to respond to the U.S.-led airstrikes in Syria.
President Trump just tweeting seconds ago, the Syrian raid was so perfectly carried out with such precision that the only way the fake news media could demean was by my use of the term mission accomplished. I knew they would seize on this, but felt it is such a great military term, it should be brought back. Use often.
Use often. Well, here to react, a sage himself, former Senator Joe Lieberman from the great state of Connecticut, former presidential candidate as well, and chairman of United Against Nuclear Iran. Mr. Senator, thanks for being here.
Good morning, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you all.
A lot of news this morning, so it's great to have you on the couch, get your perspective.
You have been focused on American intervention and interest in that region for a long time. What do you make of the president's approach in Syria?
Well, first, I'm appreciative that he responded, because part of why we're in the trouble we're in Syria now is that President Obama drew a red line on chemical weapons. Assad crossed the red line, and then nothing happened. And that was an invitation to keep it going more. So let's say first, thank you, President Trump. You responded. You did it with the English and the French, and it was twice as powerful as last year's. Now, and in that sense, and I'm not going to quibble about mission accomplished. I think it was pretty clear that the president meant the mission that he gave as commander-in-chief, our troops, in this case, was accomplished. Obviously, we didn't wipe out their chemical weapons. So this is, in a way, giving them a third chance to prove that they're not going to use them. And we have to be ready to go back in if they do. The one part of this that bothered me was a statement from the Defense Department at one point that these raids were carried out in a way that would not affect foreign militaries in Syria, and that means Iran and Russia. Well, in my opinion, we complete the mission. In other words, we get their chemical weapons facilities, and if it hits some Russians or Iranian troops, that's their fault. Not ours, because they don't belong there.
Great point.
You hear from a lot of lawmakers in reaction to this, upset that the president didn't get congressional approval for these airstrikes. I'd love your take on that. Do you think the president should have asked Congress? I mean, you hear a lot of their responses. They're all over the map. I'm not sure that he would have even been able to get their approval at the end of the day. How did that all play out?
No, I mean, I've been through this. I was 24 years, had the privilege of being in the Senate. There was a lot of military action. Article 2 of the Constitution makes very clear that the president, as commander-in-chief, can act when he deems that our national interest is at stake. Can you imagine what would have happened if the president went to Congress? Congress would have to debate the resolution.
Didn't Obama do that? And he punted it to Congress?
Well, in a way, President Obama said that he was going to have to go to Congress. And then they kind of reached the conclusion before a debate really got going that Congress wouldn't be supportive. I thought that was a real failure of leadership. In my opinion, if President Obama had acted then and struck the Syrian chemical facilities, it would have succeeded. That mission would have been accomplished, and it would have been very popular, including with members of Congress. I mean, if you're president, you've got to be a leader. And so you can't wait for a long congressional debate when somebody like Assad, supported by the Russians and the Iranians, has used chemical weapons. Because it could have taken weeks, and then it would have been a very long...
Weeks is fast for Congress.
Weeks is fast for Congress.
There was broad support. There was broad support back during the Obama administration from Democrats and Republicans to enforce that red line. Let me ask you, though, Senator, one of the things that it appears the administration tried to do is to strike a balance between getting us entangled in another quagmire like the Bush years, for which you have a lot of experience back in those days when you were a senator and on the Foreign Relations Committee. And also sending the message that President Obama didn't, which is you got to stop this. And that message goes not just to Syria, it goes to Russia and Iran.
So this raises a larger series of questions, and they're not easy ones. I mean, the fact is that at the beginning of this, 7 years ago, 2011, the Syrian people rose up as part of the so-called Arab Spring. Unlike in Tunisia and in Egypt, where there was also Arab Spring uprising, where the military didn't turn their guns on the people. In Syria, Assad directed his military to start killing the Syrian people. That was before he used chemical weapons, and almost 500,000, probably more, have been killed millions of refugees, including a lot of those flowing into Europe over the years since then. So the question is, can we avoid trying to and then Russia jumped in, saw an opportunity to get back in the Middle East because we were laying back. It was a terrible situation for us.
So how far does our engagement go?
Look, I think this should end with Assad out and Russia and Iran pushed back. President Trump has taken a real
How do you get Assad out? Because then doesn't it become our responsibility? And we've already seen how that played out in Iraq. Well, that's the tough challenge. We don't want to get involved in a ground war. We can use our air power more to totally obliterate Assad's Syrian air force. We've got to really talk strength to the Russians. The Iranians are impossible to talk to because they're our implacable enemy. And President Trump's taken a real strong leadership role against the Iranians. He's got a big decision coming up in May.
Is he going to scrap the Iran deal in that decision, do you believe?
Well, unless the Europeans, he's given them months now, change the agreement or agree to work with him, with the Iranians to change it. To me, that means two things. Cutting out the sunset, which says after 10 years, less than that, they can build nuclear weapons. The second is they've got to agree to let the international inspectors go into the Iranian military facilities, which, if there's someplace they're cheating, and I worry they are, that's where it's going to be. I don't think the Iranians are going to do that. I hope the president will pull out of the agreement. It's a bad agreement. And we have to confront the rest of the world with a choice. Do you want to do business in the United States or you want to do business in Iran? That's an easy choice for the rest of the world. They want to be.
We'll see if that happens.
Senator, you have a book out with Liberty and Justice.
Right.
So make sure you buy that.
Basically, and briefly, this is very different. It's about the importance of law in a society, and I base it on the Bible.
That's good timing.
The trip from the children of Israel being liberated from freedom in Egypt, but it takes them to Mount Sinai to get the Ten Commandments. And it's a message to us, freedom's not enough. We need good laws to
It's going to be a great read. Senator Joe Lieberman, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to have you on.
Have a great day.